You know, as we get older, it feels like everybody has more and more expectations for us, um, which isn't always a bad thing, I guess, because it kind of pushes you to be better, grow as a person. But some expectations, I feel like, just hold you back. And something I've been thinking about recently is kind of a desire to just like go outside and just sit around for a while. And it it's weird because I feel like people just expect you to always have a reason for doing everything. And something like that, it's really just not something that you can put to words, like why you desire it. It's just it's very natural and not logical. And I feel like it's weird because people expect you to always have a logical reason as you get older. If you're a little kid, nobody's gonna question why you're going outside. You want to go run around, you want to go get some energy off. But as you get older, people they don't have that just natural expectation. They think it's weird whenever you just go outside. And I think that's maybe a part of the reason why so many people enjoy being isolated these days. Um, just not having to conform to a lot of expectations that maybe hold them back. And kind of an example of this, I guess, would be, sometimes I leave something in my car after going somewhere, like my phone, I'll just leave it in the cup holder. And so I got to go back outside to go get it. And people always ask me why I'm going back outside. And, part of me just wants to, ask them why they care so much, because to me, it's just, I'm just walking around, I'm just doing things. But everybody wants a reason. They always want a reason. And, I feel like a lot of people you shouldn't need to give them a reason. Shouldn't need to, but they expect it, and it's your close family, so you can't just ignore them. You just keep going, Um, so you always got to respond with some sort of reason. And it's like I wish you didn't have to do that. I wish I could just go outside and sit down or walk around. I live in a neighborhood it's just a giant circle. I used to go on runs around the circle, and they take me like 20 minutes. Um, and part of me like once whenever I get home from work and it's like 11 o'clock or something, it's really late. Part of me just wants to just go walk, just go walk around the circle. Just take a moment to think about my life and the choices I've made today. And yeah, it just feels like everybody just wants a reason. Um, and maybe part of the reason I don't want to give them a reason is because I don't want them to be worried about me. I don't want to be a burden in other people's lives. I just want to go worry about my own life. Um, and I kind of treat other people the same way, I guess. I like I don't really want to care about your own life. I'd imagine other people have their own life carried or figured out. Um, and yeah, I just want to go think. I just want to go walk around and think. And people just treat that as weird, or at least people around me do. Hopefully, it's not the same for everybody. Because I feel like that's maybe it's a form of like meditation, maybe. Um, just being able to think, have some quiet, and speaking of quiet, one of the biggest things I think I regret in my recent life is I went to this concert recently, and I wasn't wearing any hearing protection or anything, And I'm pretty sure I have like tinnitus now. Like the constant ringing in your ear, and it's like I'll be laying in my bed at night. That's like one of the times that you really just have a moment of silence. Um, and you just hear the ringing, and part of me kind of misses an absolute silence. Um, I kind of wonder how deaf people, like, what they actually experience. Because there's no way they just don't experience anything. There has to be some sort of just muffled or maybe the same ringing that I have. Just without any actually being able to hear anything real. Um, but if they do really experience nothing, I kind of envy them. Just being able to experience that absolute silence and just being able to get lost in your thoughts. Um, that's what life is a lot to me. Just thinking about how to be better, what you could have done better, how to improve. I feel like you can kind of go crazy if you just don't think about that kind of stuff. You just think about what you've done and think of yourself as good enough. Um, you can get kind of crazy, and it's probably how a lot of bad people develop. I think I was watching this video on YouTube not long ago, and this guy he was talking about how like rough seas make good sailors, and I think it's kind of true with people, like people that go through rough times, um, I think are just better able to empathize with others, better able to think about who they are, how they're doing. But at the same time, I think confidence is like really just what what decides whether you're going to be successful in life or not. And that I think that confidence can come from two places really. Either you're just born with it, you just don't really care how you present yourself and you're just automatically confident, or you just build the confidence by improving over time. I think I'm in kind of like the latter half. Most of the time I feel not very confident about myself. Um, but at the same time, I recognize that it's the most important thing. You know, Talking about the silence and everything. Part of that silence is just thinking, and like I was saying, thinking about how to improve, how to become better day by day. And just it's hard whenever you're surrounded by so much stuff going on. You just want to think, but you can't go outside and just walk around, because people question it. Um, and I wish a lot of people just leave me alone, just let me go do my own thing. That's where I'm gonna leave this off. I just wanted to talk about some things that I've been thinking about lately. Uh, yeah.